Hey again, it is 9 a.m. Eastern, and you know what that means. It is time for Sales Logic, the show where we dive into the strategies, discuss everything you need to know to be really effective at sales. Hanging out here with my partner in crime, Mark Hunter. It is post Thanksgiving. How'd you do on overeating on
I
Thanksgiving?
did not overeat. And if people had been part of the pre-show, that you could have participated in our conversation on Israel, Turkey, white meat, where we were born. What else did we talk about? Anyway.
I don't know. I ate more carbs and a little more sugar than I
Oh no. Oh no.
than I
Oh no.
typically do. So I'm going to be exercising quite a bit between now and Christmas.
That means you're gonna be running every day. You're gonna be
Yeah.
playing tennis every day. You're gonna be playing golf every day because oh no, too many carbs.
That's right. Too many carbs. All right. So we have a really important show on tap for today. I think that what I am going to do is maybe hit the video, jump into it because we got a lot of really good stuff to discuss. That sound good to you?
Sounds good.
Prospect with integrity, we will get customers who have integrity. Integrity is the foundation from which everything is built on.
You better understand value. But at the end of the day, sales is a relationship business. It is a people business. It is an emotional business.
This is Sales Logic.
It is Sales Logic. That's right. 9 a.m. Eastern every Saturday morning. Mark, we got a big show, which I want you to jump in and explain in just a couple of minutes. But I want to go over with the audience how the show works. We come to you every Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, unless I screw the schedule up and have to adjust it because we know Mark 99.9% of the time it's me. Every week we've got a hot topic, something we're going to dive into. My favorite part of the show is the question we take from you. So if you ever have a question, just go to saleslogicpodcast.com, put it out there on social media, #SalesLogic. We highlight a book and we do a lightning round because we want you to walk away with return on investment. So Mark, what is on tap for today?
Well, the topic we're going to talk about is prospecting. Gee, that's so unusual. But hey, it's getting prospects to respond. That's the topic. The question today comes from Eduardo in Spokane, Washington. Hey, it's the town I was born in. So, hey,
Wow.
we got to give a shout out to this guy. He asks, our team has done so much work on identifying our ideal customer profile. We have great prospect lists, and we are sure that our product is the right solution for them. The challenge is we make the contact, but more often than not, prospects just don't respond. Crickets. Can you hear them? What are we doing wrong?
Well, first, Eduardo, I want to say congratulations on doing a lot of work on your ideal customer profile, because that really is the very first step. But if you're still having a challenge in getting prospects to respond, I want to challenge you to go back to the drawing board and do a little bit more work on that ideal customer profile. You may have identified them, clearly articulated who they are, but I wonder if you understand them, what their problems and what their challenges are, because people respond to sales professionals who understand them, not sales professionals they understand. So you want to make sure that maybe when you go back in and do the work beyond the demographic and the psychographic work, what are the problems and challenges you believe they're facing?
That is so true, because it's easy for us to identify physically what they look like, kind of the business and who they are. But what I like to do is I take them now, what's the solution we're providing and how is it going to help them? What's the outcome? What's the problem that they have that we know we can help them with? Because here's the whole thing. If they're just, if all you're hearing is crickets, it says one thing: you haven't delivered value to them in a manner that says, this makes sense. Now, there can be timing issues. There can be contractual issues. There can be a number of other pieces in play. But here's the whole thing. You have to zero in on what is the outcome. And what I'm going to challenge you, Eduardo, and your team is, I'm going to assume that you've got this all right. You know what their outcomes are. Then you got to ask yourself, what are the messages what really specifically are the messages? And are they in tune with 100% what the prospect is looking? I mean, you can't, I see this still too often. Hey, you haven't responded to me. Jump in. Hey, all of these stupid emails, and repetition of stupidity is repetitive stupidity. Okay. So we'll just kind of end that one right there. You got to make sure that every message you're sending is different and it hones in on that outcome that you're going to help them achieve.
Yeah. Too, don't assume that since your prospect's not responding, that they're not listening. Because more often than not, to what Mark was talking about, I've reached out with it for a year with value added messaging, things that I think videos that would be good for them, events I invite them to, articles that are relevant, things like that. And then, I don't know, 6 to 8 months into it, they just start to respond. But also, let's talk about shortening that contact period, in the sense that what are you doing to meet the prospect before you want to call on the prospect? And what I mean by that is, I don't know where your prospect lives. I don't know if you need to attend events, if they're in your local community, but what can you do to meet the prospect before you want to call on the prospect? I mean, if I have a chance to meet Mark at a local, chamber of business after hours or something, it becomes a lot easier to walk up and say, Mark, I've heard a lot about you. You're somebody I came to this event. I really wanted to meet, would love to learn a little bit more about your industry. We chat a little bit and I say, I'm going to give you a call next week, see if I could take you out for a cup of coffee or come by and actually see your business. But I'm actually forcing that ability, to make interaction. Mark and I both work globally, so that can be a little bit more challenging. But a lot of times, if I'm going to be in a community, I'll go ahead and reach out to some of my prospects in that community and say, I'm in town for a speaking engagement. A, I'd love to invite you to the event. B, if you don't have time, could we grab a cup of coffee or have breakfast?
Well, see, even if you only do things locally, you still need to be recognized globally. We talk about this a lot. This is where social media comes into play. Now, we're not advocates of, let's go spend 8 hours a day on social media. No, can't stand it. But here's the whole thing. It is amazing how, like what you're talking about, you want that prospect to kind of recognize you, get to know you, understand a little bit about you before you really begin to move forward. And that's so key as to what really LinkedIn is all about. The show appears on LinkedIn, it appears on Facebook, it appears on YouTube. What are we doing? We're really allowing people to kind of experience us before we reach out to them. So really what we're doing is we're practicing, we're doing what we say, Eduardo, you may want to take a look at doing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Steve, I want to assure you, we are recording this. It'll be available at saleslogic.podcast.com. The legendary Bryn Tillman has joined us this morning, and she says, we have to earn the right to get the conversation. We have to be a resource, provide insight, develop rapport, and build credibility, understanding that the sales call will happen when the time is right. So incredibly important. A sales call is a privilege. If you want to learn more about building your reputation on LinkedIn, you really need to check out Bryn Tillman. I don't know anybody any better at it than she is. But when prospects aren't responding, also, Eduardo, I'd say gather up your sales team on a Friday morning and spend 45 minutes dividing prospects that have responded versus prospects that have not responded, and identify what the difference is. Because somewhere in there, you're doing some things right and you want to figure out what those are and double down on those. And then when they're going cold, you're going to find out some reasons why they're going cold, and some things that you need to adjust and change there.
And there's something interesting. If they stay cold with you and they're not responding, and then they do respond, you want to find out, okay, now what triggered them to suddenly respond? I had an individual who was reaching out to me almost every couple of weeks for the last year. And it was interesting. I totally ignoring him. I liked the product and the service he offered. I literally just had my marketing person reach out to him a week ago, and we're starting to do some work with him. So, it wasn't like this person's attempts to reach me were all for naught. It's just there was no need for me to respond. The timing was not right. And I didn't want to enter into a conversation, but I was finding value in them. then boom, it happens. So don't think for a moment that crickets always remain crickets. They may light up somewhere down the road.
Absolutely. The other thing you want to think about using is social proof. I mean, one of the biggest ways I get prospects to respond is I make sure that somebody they would know. Even so, first of all, if you can get a referral or a connection in, that's great, but it doesn't always work. A testimonial is good enough from somebody else in the industry. You have to remember that prospects are really busy. And so they're thinking about, if I gave you my time, would it be worth the effort? I mean, Bryn said it so well. You've got to earn the right. So they're watching what you post on social media. They're watching what you send in an email. They're listening to what you leave in a voicemail. And if you can give them some proof of somebody that you've done work with and the result that it has created. So just not Meridith is great to work with. I'm looking for something like working with Meridith. We doubled our sales efforts and really, drove at least 30% growth to our bottom line. Now, all of a sudden, I'm interested. So social proof is huge.
See, I get my social proof by hanging out with Meridith. That's how I get my social proof. So anyway, here's this whole thing though. There's a balance. You have to understand balance, because you can go off the deep end, spend all your time on social. Can I say the word social selling? Ooh, a creepy word. I hate saying it. But in that, and people get it so wrong. That's why I suggest follow Bryn Tillman. But here's the whole piece. It's this balance. It's a balance. And go back to what Meridith, what you said earlier in terms of find out, why did people respond to you when they did respond, and vice versa? Because here's what I find. We get a tremendous amount of knowledge that comes into us in terms of how we refine our marketing process, how we refine our sales process, based off of following up on how did each prospect come to be. And over the years, we in turn have shifted and tweaked and so forth. And what's very interesting, Eduardo, I'm going to challenge you. How much are you using the telephone? Because many times what happens is I find crickets are because really all we're doing is sending emails, and you have to be using multiple communication methods to be able to reach your prospect.
Oh, we got a great weigh in here from our friend Larry Levine. Question becomes, how do they view you? What is their perception of you? Are you being viewed as a credible, trustworthy sales professional or just a sales rep?
That's why I hang out with you. That's why I hang out with you.
Huge difference when it comes to mutual engagement. Wow, the power line in there is really, are you viewed as a credible, trustworthy sales professional or just a sales rep? Larry wrote this incredible book, Selling from the Heart. You getting an echo on me?
No.
Okay, good. It's just on my end then. Great. Selling from the Heart.
Did you take your medicine this morning?
I did. Maybe it's just in my head. But this is such an important piece, because I think it's a piece we as sales professionals miss. What are you doing to create yourself as a resource? Somebody that even before you call on them, they're turning to you for information. Like, you deeply and intimately understand the problems in the marketplace, and you're the person that they should talk to in order to open that door. So if we go back to Eduardo, even if you've really identified the ideal customer profile, if they're not opening the door, they don't believe you can solve their problem. You need to solve that problem for your sales team.
You brought up a good point. Why does Apple advertise so much? Why does Starbucks advertise? Why does everybody advertise so much? And these are brand names that you know. But why? Because they're having to create awareness. This is what I say when we're out there selling, when we're out there prospecting. It takes repetition. And it takes it through multiple platforms. I'm going to be reaching out to you by way of email. I'm going to be telephoning you. I may be trying to meet with you, but I'm also going to be doing things on social media to try to create some of that marketing awareness, because I want you to be able to see my posts. I want you to see my content. When you see that I'm credible, we increase our value locally when we're recognized globally. Jack jumps in with a great comment. Combo conversations along with timing and value make the difference. They're nothing worse than a desperate salesperson pushing too hard. Jack Hubbard, you're with us every Saturday morning. You are spot on with that, because slimy salespeople, that went away with the polyester suit many, many years ago.
Yeah, it's interesting. I always say that desperation has an odor and you can smell it miles away. And I think one of the important things to recognize here is the fact that we no longer control the buying cycle. The customer or prospect can buy anywhere they want to, anytime they want to, from anyone they want to. Just this last week, I had somebody, I might have mentioned this last week, but I had somebody reach out to me for a service I want to buy. I'm ready to cut that check. And I explained to them I'm incredibly busy. They wanted to meet with me last week, and I'm booked solid through about the 16th of December. And I said, could we speak after that? And he emailed me back and he said, could we talk on Saturday or Sunday? That just made me mad, because what it told me was he was not listening to me. He was more concerned about hitting a sales goal than he was about making this experience good for me. So as you can see, Eduardo, there's so much you need to dive into. I really think you need to sit down with your sales team and again, divide when a prospect answers why. What did you do really well? And when they don't, what do you need to stop doing and what do you need to improve?
Hey, I got a question for you. Now, that salesperson asked you, could we meet on Saturday or Sunday? Would it have made a difference if he said, hey, I'm available on Saturday and Sunday if you would like to? If he were to phrase that differently, would you have responded differently?
Absolutely. Here's the problem. He never acknowledged that he listened to me.
There you
If
go.
he would have said, if it'd be easier for you, I'm happy to meet on the weekend, or we could wait until after the 16th. But nowhere in his messaging did the word you come up.
Right.
And I think, you have to understand that traditional sales methods of thinking that the customer needs you, they're dead. The reason I basically said goodbye. This is how rude I was. Terrible, but it's true. I said goodbye. Please never contact me again. And he reached back out. He was desperate at that point, and he said, "I'm sorry. I'm just trying to hit a sales goal." Mistake number 2.
Oh, wow.
Mistake number 2. But in fairness, that's not his fault. It's the sales leader's fault for A, putting pressure, and B, not explaining and helping them understand the landscape. But that's another piece. If prospects are not responding to you, are you making the call about them, or are you making the call about you? It's a subtle difference, but oh my gosh, it is powerful.
Well, this is where I always say we have to frame ourselves up. And one way we frame ourselves up is every morning you sit there and you say, what are the outcomes I'm going to help my customers achieve? What are the outcomes I've helped my customers achieve? You focus on the outcomes. You focus on the outcomes. And I firmly believe that begins to shift your mindset, your thinking. Hey, thank you, Larry. Larry's always gracious, always a terrific conversation. And we love having you listening from the West Coast. So where it is dark 30, like 6:20 in the morning. So thank you, Larry.
Well, one thing is that as I'm listening to this too, this is such a small little world of those of us who believe in selling like this. I mean, there's a strong tie between the Jack Hubbards, the Larry Levines, and the Bryn Tillmans of the world, is that they all buy into this idea of selling is about helping. It's not about pushing. And if another thing I want to say, if a prospect is not responding, the other thing is there's a 99% chance it has nothing to do with you. I talked to a prospect, about a month ago, to join a group that I've got. And he was hot, ready to pull the trigger, ready to sign all the dotted line. He'd had experience with these types of groups before. He has gone dark. He is not responding to me. He is not responding to the person who referred him. And she and I were talking about it the other day. And she said, what do you think that is about? And I said, well, the thing I'm guaranteed, it has nothing to do with us. Something else has happened. Something's gone on with his business. So I just sent him an email that said, hey, I know you're busy. We're headed into the holiday season. Don't worry about following up with me. I'm going to keep in touch with you, just invite you to things, little value add here and there. When you're ready to pull the trigger, I just want you to know I'm here and I'm ready to go. Like, I want all the pressure off of him on responding.
Yeah, and what you're doing is you're framing it up again in their context, in their world. And this is where so many salespeople just get it wrong, because go back to that salesperson said, I gotta make my goal. I gotta make, you should have asked them.
Poor little fella.
Yeah, so you should have asked him, so where's your trip to this year? Huh? Yeah. I mean, it's just, but these are some of the challenges that it becomes too easy for us. And this is where I was talking to a salesperson the other day who just took a new job, and he's relatively new in sales. And he said, yeah, wow, I spent a week doing nothing but product training. And I go, we just become so immersed in the product that we really need to have customer training. Think about that. If you're going to have a week of product training, maybe you need a week of customer training. But okay, that's a whole separate piece. Hey, time continues to move along here. We got a good book, right? I guess we have a good book.
Yeah, we do have a good book. Mark, why don't you tell us about this book?
Well, the book is High Profit Prospect. Now, I did not pick this book. Okay, Meridith picked this book, High Profit Prospecting. I love the book because there are scripts in there. Hey, Eduardo, get it for your team, because there are scripts in there.
Great
both
idea.
Email, there are phone scripts, there's voicemail scripts, there's all kinds of techniques in there. But it really is about how do you prospect effectively, not putting the product first. Yes. Hey, I love Larry. People training over product training. Yeah, really do.
I used to always think when I joined a company, it was when I was the best salesperson I ever was, because I didn't know the product. So all I could do is go out and have conversations with customers, because I wasn't able to solve their problems anyway. I could just identify that they had them. And the great thing about that was I had no need to jump in and try to sell anything. And, I guess if I want you to take anything away from the conversation today, if a prospect is not responding, then you need to go back and you need to do your homework. Recognize it's not about you. Okay. They're busy. And, and as Bryn said, you haven't earned the right to get in front of them. Some piece is missing. So go back and divide that and try to figure out where you're going wrong. The other is, don't be afraid. If they're not responding, it doesn't mean they're not listening. I've gotten so many bites a year later when people have told me they have been following me or paying attention or seen everything that I've sent across to them. Just as Mark said, there's been no need to respond. They weren't ready yet.
Can't stress that enough. You will never win the game unless you take the field. You've got to get out on the field. And so, I see too many salespeople. They say, well, gee, these prospects are radio silent. So guess what? I'm going radio silent. Well, guess what? That's never going to accomplish anything. Hello. So you've got to remain in the game. So anyway, hey, the book is High Profit Prospecting. Suggest you pick it up. It's written by this guy by the name of Mark Hunter. Anyway, hey, shall we jump into the lightning round?
Let's do it.
Top 10 strategies to get. Oh, we have a number. Top 10 strategies.
Yeah, just 10, I guess.
To get to the decision maker.
To get to the decision maker, number one is build your reputation in the marketplace. A decision maker is never going to open the door for somebody they have not heard of and about.
Use the telephone.
Use the telephone. Use social proof and credibility. A decision maker will listen to another decision maker.
Use multiple forms of communication, whether it be social media, whether it be email, text, phone, whatever. Use them all.
Yeah. Get a referral. Have somebody open that door for you. How many are we at to, Mark?
I don't know. I have no idea. I am not counting. Hey, how do you know that your messages work? The most valuable real estate, most valuable words are the subject line and the first 8 or 9 words of the email and the first 5 seconds of a voicemail. If they aren't 100% focused on the prospect, there's no need for them to respond.
Yeah. You need to know who the decision maker is before you even try to get to the decision maker. More often than not, you haven't done your homework and really understand who they are.
Don't think for a moment that you can send the same email or leave the same voicemail or send the same text message twice. Every message must be different.
Mm. And make sure that your messages solve the right problem. You've heard me say this on the show before, but I had a CEO tell me, I do not need a salesperson who asks me what keeps me up at night. I need a salesperson who can tell me what keeps me up at night and how to solve that problem.
Focus on the outcome by bringing in proof. One of the lines I love to use is I've worked with a lot of other companies just like yours. And it's amazing when you demonstrate proof, it's amazing how people will begin to respond.
All right, I'm going to do one more and you do one more. If you want to get to the decision maker, network and connect where the decision makers are. You need to know where your group hangs out, what they do, and you need to become part of that crowd.
The biggest thing that will change your prospecting results is your own attitude. If you have the attitude and you have the mindset that you can remain in there and remain in the game and help them make a difference, you will be successful. So, hey, you've been listening to Sales Logic this week. We want to say thank you for listening. If you like what you hear, subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast app. If something we've said has earned you a single dollar, consider telling a friend about our show. It's how we grow to help you grow. I'm Mark Hunter.
And I'm Meridith Elliott Powell.
Remember, when you sell with confidence and integrity,
all of this uncertainty suddenly becomes your competitive advantage.
And the sale becomes logical.
All right, Mark, I think Bryn has put the quote of the week up here. Lurkers will become engagers when they are ready. So true. And Larry Levine chimes in. He loves that. Well, build that reputation out there in the marketplace. People will be watching you. And as Bryn says, when they're ready, they will pull the trigger. Join us right here next week, 9:00 Eastern, for another episode of Sales Logic. If you have a question, a topic you want us to cover, go to saleslogicpodcast.com or just throw it out there on social media, #SalesLogic. We'll see you right here next week. You can catch the replay of this on iTunes or your favorite podcast app. We'll see you next week.